Brown here with you. We're broadcasting from Park in Arkansas, right outside of Memphis. Everybody watching this show today, most of you are in the South, but wherever you are, we welcome you. Pay attention. This Memphis area is on a threat level of 1 to 5. We're on a 5. The last time we had this was 2 years ago, March 31st of 2023, a level 5. And we know what happened. An F3 tornado hit Wynne, Arkansas, and I believe 4 people were killed, but it leveled a lot of the town, and parts of the football field in Wynne, Arkansas were found in Dyersburg, Tennessee. So pay attention, folks. Brendan, unbelievable putting the
Well, you don't know this about me, but I wanted to be a weatherman when I was
It's been a good one.
Yeah, I wanted to be a storm chaser growing up in Colorado because I was deathly afraid of tornadoes, deathly scared out of my mind until I finally conquered that. And then I wanted to go out and chase them. So, Rob, I got your back with the Doppler. We're used to bad weather here in Central Florida. I noticed there's a Marion, Arkansas there. I live in Marion County, so.
Yeah, and it's right closer to the river. They're giving out free sandbags there. But, man, we will be paying attention today.
But he's braving the storm nonetheless, and you can go ahead and follow that QR code right there if you'd like, and check us out on X. You'll get notifications when we're live, and you'll know when we have recorded shows. Why do you find our recorded shows? We can get them on X. You can go over to different channels. We have a YouTube channel as well that you can click on the QR code and subscribe to it right here, and you will get notifications from YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you want to do. It's all there. And he's Rob Brown. I'm Brendan Martin. He goes 5 days a week. Yep, and every morning. So you can check us out live, jump the chat room, and all that good stuff. Rob, you got to stay safe today. He's out there, so we may lose contact with him. We'll see, but we'll stay strong for you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And one thing, Coach John Brady's on with us, and Oakley, McFerrin, our intern, should be with us here momentarily. Coach, I was asking you about it's, Final Four week. And I love something that a coach, Butch Thompson, the baseball coach at Auburn, said about walking from the dugout to the plate. He said, don't let the moment be too big. You've been in a Final Four. Brendan and I have not. We've watched a lot of them, but you've coached in it. Let's talk about what's going – and I know this is impossible, but, for John Shire, Calvin Sampson, Bruce Pearl, Todd Golden, what's this like? I mean, I'm trying to think. Shire has played in a national championship. He's coached in one as an assistant. Now he's coaching one as a head coach. Calvin Sampson has won everywhere he's been. This is Bruce Pearl's second, Todd Golden's first.
Well, I think you got some contrast of coaches there. You've got a couple of guys, Kelvin and Bruce, been there, and they understand it. They're older, obviously. You got Golden and Shire. It's their first time around, particularly Golden. He's probably the most inexperienced guy at this level. Shire's been there. He's played it. He's set by Krzyzewski for a long time. He understands winning at a high level. So I think it just depends on that coach's personality. You don't ask me about how to prepare for a Final Four because we weren't too good when I went there. UCLA jumped on us like 17-4, and it wound up about that same number, beat us by 15 or so. So we weren't very good in our semifinal game. But, I think the experienced coaches have a little edge because they've been through it before. And I would say Kelvin and Bruce have probably the advantage over the other two, with Shire at third place and then, Golden coming up at the rear because he just hadn't been there as a young guy. And what he's done this year has been unbelievable, though. But I like the experienced coaches in this type of situation.
Well, and I agree. That's why I wanted to ask you that. The size of the arenas that you play in, and I've been to the Final Four before. I went in Minneapolis one time, and there was 52,000, but we were 12 rows off the floor where we were sitting. But it was, you think about the depth perception for the players and all. They get in there a few days early. What would you be as a coach? They're playing down there in the Alamo Dome. That's a pretty big place. What do you tell these guys, especially the bricklayers, the guys who cannot hit free throws? Janai Broome comes to mind. Dylan Cardwell for Auburn. Dylan Cardwell shoots less than 30% free throws. It may come down to that for a lot of any of these teams.
Well, from my perspective, I never mentioned anything like that. I didn't want to create a problem and put something in their mind that they may have anyway. So I never mentioned
Okay.
about depth perception or the big size of the place or whatever it was wherever we played, whether it was anywhere. I just don't think you make that a point. I think
Yeah.
if you are concerned about depth perception and shooting the ball from the free throw line with certain players, when you have your opportunity to have an hour in that building to practice, those are things that you do. You make
Yeah.
sure you get them comfortable in that environment, in that particular building. But as far as making it an issue, I never mentioned it because I think you create something that's not necessary if you talk about those type of things.
Robbie,
Sorry
you're
about yeah. I
muted.
would agree with that, Coach, completely. Because if you try to make something a big deal, like when you get up in the morning to go for your run or your walk, if it's raining, put on your rain gear. I mean, you still got to go.
Or
And
don't go.
well, I mean, you could do that, but I will tell you, Brendan, last year a storm was coming through Ocala, one of many, and
Yeah.
Wi-Fi was knocked out, and he got on the tail, was drafting off of a vehicle in front of him that had Wi-Fi, and we produced a show.
I found a semi truck on the highway that
Can't make it up.
Had open Wi-Fi, and I was driving
Wow.
to trying to find a Starbucks to get Wi-Fi, and then I noticed it pop up, so I drafted him all the way to Tampa from where
Holy sir.
it was an hour long, and then I found him later in the parking lot getting gas, and I went up and thanked him for it, and he
Yeah,
was a big Gator fan.
yeah. I mean, that's fate, and the you think, Coach, about these four teams, the matchups. Auburn's played all four of them. I mean, the other three teams, they're 1-2 against them. Let's talk about the Gators and this team. And as a coach, when you're watching, you're seeing things that we don't see. They had some close games, and everybody did in the tournament. You're playing Danny Hurley, the defending, back-to-back national champion. They're not going out without a fight. You know that. But you look at the game against Texas Tech. I don't know a lot about Texas Tech, but I know this. Chris Beard had success there. Bobby Knight was there. They care about basketball there. Florida, that was a hell of a game. The Florida Auburn matchup. Florida's a 2.5-point favorite. What do you think happened Saturday?
Well, as we've talked about before on this show, I've liked Florida from day one, and I always thought they had an opportunity to go the Final Four. Uh, they won a couple of difficult games along the way, but that's going to happen. You've got to be able to do that. You've got to be able to make the right plays, the right time, and Florida had their best player, win a couple of games for them. So. Uh, again, we've talked about Florida, their depth around the basket, their quality play at guard. Golden is an excellent coach. They run really good stuff at key
Yeah.
situations. The inbounds plays are great. Their press offense is really good. Uh, I think they're a really good team. The Auburn team scares me to death. I had Michigan State. My Final Four is still intact. I've got three of the four in, but Auburn messed me up when they beat Michigan State. So Auburn is a scary team. Uh, they're able to play fast. They're able to play slow. Uh, I think the key for Florida is what did they do with Broome? Can they make it a difficult day for him? I think most teams that have beaten Auburn have made it a difficult day for Broome, and
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how Florida defends him on the post. If they double team him, make him pass it out, and then rotate out or play him one on one. I don't think you can play him one on one down low. I think you have to show him some different coverages to keep him off a rhythm of play. And if Florida can do that, I like the Gators in this game, although Auburn really scares me to death.
Last week, I loved it. You said Janai Broome's got what you call kind of an old man's game, and Coach, you're kind of EF Hutton.
Complimentary
No,
though.
no,
Let's
I
get
know
that
that,
out there. Yeah.
and I was laughing. So we're over in Atlanta at our daughter's, and we went to Sports and Social and watched that game at the Battery right by the house, and it was packed. It was like an Auburn home game. It was crazy, and on these giant, I think 30-foot TVs. Broom he's tough. You match him up against Florida, they got 5 big guys. You don't see teams with Alex Condons, Chinyelu, and this Hawk guy from Pennsylvania.
I
You've
love
been
him.
watching him. Talk about those matchup because Auburn's got Chaney Johnson, sort of, but really Dylan Cardwell and Janai Broom. That's 3 to 5.
Yeah, and Cardwell's not going to be a big scorer, and I don't think he's as difficult to defend as Broom. Broom can do a lot of things. Broom's a good passer too, but I'd rather him pass it out than shoot it. And plus, you gotta guard Broom a little bit from the 3-point line because he'll
Yeah.
step out there and hit one. He had a big one the other day coming
Yeah.
coming out of the locker room. I
Yeah.
thought he was hurt, wasn't going to play, and he comes up there and
Hollywood.
hits a yeah. It was a made for movie sort of situation, but I think with the collection of bigs that Florida has, they can put different defensive things against Broom to make it difficult for him. And I do think if they make a difficult day, now he may get 15 or 20 points, but I think the shooting percentage is something to follow with Broom. If he's 10 for 15 or 10 for 16, I think Florida's in trouble. But if he can go like 5 for 16 or 17, keep him off that rhythm of play. I think it enhances Florida's chances to win the game.
Walter Clayton Jr. As a player, I mean, describe him. How much fun would he be to coach?
Well, he makes the game look easy, and he plays at a pace that I think is conducive to winning and winning big. He doesn't get in a hurry. He always seems to be under control. Those couple of games that he played, that last game, he made 3 threes that were just incredible shots, big shots at the right time, and I think that's what outstanding players do. And certainly he'll have a career in the NBA at some level of production at the NBA, but we'll see how that goes. But certainly, I think Florida's guards complement their bigs and vice versa, and I think their team is a complete basketball team as I've seen all year, and we'll see how that plays out. But I think Florida's guards may have the edge against
Yeah.
Auburn's guards. Although I love Pettiford, I've talked about him
Yeah.
since day one too. The freshman for Auburn, he's a really nice player in his own right. But I think collectively, Florida's guards are as good or a little bit better. And then I think the versatility of the Florida bigs and the numbers that they have, they can create some problems for Broom. And if that holds true, certainly I think Florida wins the game.
Yeah, and it's going to take the guys that don't normally hit free throws have got to hit them, and the guards have got to have, a bunch of points for Auburn because I just don't think you beat Florida matching up with their big guys. Looking at Houston and Duke, and Duke they're really good, and it's no real surprise for me to say that. I think the average size of their players is 6'8", so they use the term. And I don't ever like to try to sound like I'm a coach, using all the minutia that y'all know, but they're really long. And someone last week, Kerry Jones, one of our viewers up in Lebanon, Tennessee, put on the screen, best guard, period, Walter Clayton Jr. Best power forward, big guy, Janai Broom. Best overall player, Cooper Flagg. So let's talk about the fighting flags of Duke and how they'll go at Houston, because Houston, I'm sure, is going to want to slow the game down. They certainly did against Tennessee in the first half.
Well, I think Houston's pace of play is not as important as Houston's ability to defend. I think the numbers shrink with Houston because how good they guard. They're the best help and recover team and closeout team I've seen in college basketball, and that's coaching. You don't teach guys to defend like that unless you challenge them in practice. And I've never seen a team like Houston that is committed to the defensive stance as they are. All those cats are in a stance whether they're on the ball or off the
Yeah,
ball. They always have a head swivel. They always know where the ball is in relationship to their man.
yeah,
And when that ball is kicked out of the post, when they throw it in there, the recovery that the Houston team can create in closing out and not giving up straight line drives to the goal is incredible. And that goes back to Kelvin Sampson and his personality. Uh, Flagg is just an incredible player. I mean, he may be the best freshman overall I believe I've ever seen. I mean, you go back to Bird was a heck of a player in college, and some other forwards. But I think overall, in terms of passing the ball, rebounding it, blocking shots, making baskets, he's really a point forward. He brings the ball up against pressure when people apply pressure to Duke. So, and he's got some good players on his flank too, and he makes other players better. And I think that's the mark of a really good player. But in terms of this game, I think the lower the score, 70s, it favors, the Cougars, and I think the higher the score favors the Duke Blue Devils. And we'll just see if Duke's able to create a faster pace and more conducive to how they like to play, as opposed to Houston, who's going to guard them tough, rebound the ball, limit them to one shot, and see if they can keep the score around the 70s or lower. The higher the score, I believe, favors Duke.
Yeah.
The lower the score, I think, favors the Cougars.
Yeah. Wow. That was like asking Gordon Ramsay, can you come over and help me in the kitchen? I mean, Coach, I got to compliment you. And I get so many people saying that guy is incredible. You really are. A point forward. I've never heard that description used. And I will say this about Flag. A lot of people, they are saying, oh, the ACC's not, it doesn't matter. If you're doing what he's doing against air, you're that good of a player. And he played at a prep school or one of the, not Oak Hill Academy, but one of them. He's from Maine. Not that they're known for their great basketball, but he's got a lot of people up there, watching. And I'm trying to think of a freshman who's had that kind of an impact.
I don't know of one, and
I can't.
I don't know of a freshman that can do that many things. He plays like he's a junior or senior. He plays like an experienced guy, and I think there are several things in his favor. He was blessed with talent. He's got size and speed and quickness. Some things that are just God given, but also, his approach and his attitude seems to be really good. I don't know him personally, never met the guy.
Yeah.
But obviously, he's been well coached throughout his whole career, whether it's been in high school or prep school or wherever he chose to go. And then certainly he's getting excellent coaching at Duke, and he responds to coaching, and he wants to be good. He wants to be the best. And you get a player that's gifted like that from the start, and then his attitude and character and competitive nature is right there. You've got a chance to have a special player, and certainly he is a special player. And Duke's fortunate to have that guy. And if he goes pro, I think the NBA can't wait to get the hands on that guy. I think he could be the face of the NBA 2 or 3 years from now. Be that kind of impact player at that level.
You look at a guy like Cooper Flag. Everybody's assuming he's gone with NIL, unless when we hear the term lottery pick, is that the top 11 guys?
I don't. I never figured that out.
I haven't either.
The guys who win the roll win the round thing, I guess. And yes, well, he's the number one pick in the draft. If you don't draft him number one, there's something you're cross-eyed or something. You don't get it.
Yeah.
But he's the best player in the draft, and it'd be interesting to see what he chooses to do. And everybody's financial situation is different. Everybody's background is different, and it depends on what his priorities are in making that decision, whether it's monetary or whether it's I like Duke or whatever the case may be. It'll be interesting to see what decision he makes.
Yeah, and he's a smart kid. He seems like, I've seen some commercials with him. He's very marketable. He's just complete package. When you look at what's going on in basketball and heading into this Final Four weekend, the numbers, the ratings, they've been really good. There was people saying, well, we don't have the Cinderellas this year. Well, they got it right. It's only happened twice that all 4 number 1 seeds, and we remember it's 2008, UNC, Kansas, Memphis, UCLA. And Kevin Love was a freshman, the beast on UCLA's team. Memphis beat them on Saturday afternoon. My kids went crazy. We went over to the Highland Strip, bought everything you could find with Memphis on it. And then Monday night, up by 9 with 2 minutes left, and you couldn't hit the free throws. I like what you just said, because if you make something too big of an issue, it becomes an issue. Right. I like that mindset. And I will say this in Memphis. I love Cal. What he did here in Memphis, and just people I know that know him. I don't know him. I've met him a few times. but he lived right next to Bishop Stibe over, and he just almost a daily celebrant at Matt. He's a cool guy. And Dudley's on here right now from hogville.net. I'm watching that game against Texas Tech, up by 13 with 4:20 to go. That, and he's going to get criticized, but look what he did to start off 0-5 and to finish 8-5. And pay attention, people. When you get Warren Stevens and the Tysons and the Hunts together, which he's pulling together a coalition, they can do some amazing things, can't they, Dudley? Dudley, that's Dudley's backyard, Coach. Or is that Heber Springs? Heber Springs again?
One of the two. People were thrilled with this run in the NCAA tournament, obviously, and they should be. They were about to jump off the boat early on, but came back and I think the fact that they were up so big and it looked like you were making plans for Saturday and what time you needed to watch a basketball game, and then it just all went away. But credit to Texas Tech, although they showed in their next game it can happen to you too.
Yeah, it is. And Coach, when you watch these games, I think when you win close game after close game, I don't care what the sport is, it bonds the team closer than anything else. Agree or disagree?
I agree. When I think back on my best teams and particularly the '06 team, the run to the Final Four, and we won 3 buzzer beaters that year in the regular season.
Yeah. Wow.
We had another one we missed against UConn on the road that we should have beat them as well. But your team just expects to win, and they find a way to win. And you can credit the coach, but I think more credit goes to the players because they have a camaraderie, a belief in each other that they're just going to find a way to do it. And coaches have been in that situation. It's a great place to be as a coach when you just have the confidence level that your team's going to get it done somehow.
Yeah.
And that's a rare thing. And when it does happen, you better get on that horse and ride it because you don't know if it's going to ever be created again.
Yeah. And I thought about that, guys, yesterday. Enjoy this. Appreciate it. What you saw, if you're an Auburn fan in Atlanta at State Farm Arena when Janai Broome came out of the locker room, that's scripted in Hollywood. You're right. He hits the 3. But,
and a lot of people just discovered who Willis Reed was.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that was such a unless you know history, you couldn't make that statement. Dudley, you're a great writer, hogville.net. You worked as a manager and assistant with, Eddie Sutton and Nolan Richardson. You've been there on the bench in the games. You've played the sport in high school. The fact that Arkansas fans are so mad about the loss, it was heartbreaking. That's how you get better, because the opposite is apathy and nothing happens, does it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a very good point, because when they were 0-5, people were ready to should we still be eating these chicken nuggets? And that sort of thing. But they did a great job, and lost their 2 leading scorers down the line, and still were able to get it back together. If Adu Thero had been able to play throughout the game more than just a few minutes, then I'm sure they would have gone ahead and got over the top and got into the Elite 8. But a great run to the Sweet 16, and now they're looking at roster reconstruction, as every college is, for next season, and they're doing it with a ton of money. And you've got to worry about the salary cap these days, which coming out of my mouth about college sports is just nuts. But that's what it is, Yeah. And the big Z, I don't even try to pronounce his last name. He's headed to the transfer portal, but they know they've got to get a couple of guys, big guys, through the transfer portal that can get some work done in the paint. They've got plenty. They don't have plenty of outside guys. 2 played in the McDonald's All-American game last night. 2 of them are top 5 players up for the high school Player of the Year award. They're going to be fine. But it's all about roster reconstruction and the allocation of assets.
Yeah,
well, Rob, those those 3 or 4 ultra successful people that you mentioned earlier
Yeah.
that are behind the Arkansas program, they got Bill Clinton elected president, so I'm sure they can put together a basketball team.
That's yeah, and there's some that I'm not mentioning.
That's right.
A cotton farmer over in the Delta in Phillips County who sometimes has 70,000 acres of cotton in the ground. I'm not going to mention him, and he kind of likes the hog. I mean, there are, and you know this from living in this state. And my grandparents are from Helena, from Phillips County, and uh, Memphis. All Memphis is the largest small town in America. Everybody's 1, 2, 3 generations removed from a park in Arkansas, a Newport, a Tuckerman, an Earl, a Marion, Ida Bena, home of BB King. But golly, I just think about what's happening at Arkansas, Coach, and next year Arkansas State and Arkansas are going to play in football. That's going to be cool. But
Wow.
Arkansas State had a pretty good year. They've got a Nate Oates assistant that's there now. And now, speaking of Nate Oates, I was listening on this channel, Kevin Skarbinski, Scarbo Knows podcast is on here now. It's great. He interviewed Wimp Sanderson yesterday. Wimp's 88. And I'm saying that only because Kevin said it on the show. So it's out there. Amazing. Winifred E. Wimp Sanderson from Florence, Alabama, Coffee County. His mind, it was, you got to go back and watch this podcast because he says, Coach, about the 2 victories they took away from 1987. He goes, well, I'm not worried about that. Everybody saw those games, but man, he is as competitive as he's ever been. There's a picture, by the way, Dudley, a couple of years ago, Alabama's at LSU. And on one side is this man here, Coach John Brady from Macomb, Mississippi. In the middle is Wimp Sanderson, and there's Dale Brown. Yeah. What a photograph. I mean, that's an iconic photograph, like the one I saw at my friend's house at the Andrew Johnson Hotel at the bar in downtown Knoxville. Johnny Vaught, General Nealon, and Shug Jordan. I mean, God, what a picture, Coach.
Well, I don't know if I'm in the class of Wimp and Dale, but it was good to be affiliated with that group. They make me look like I'm better than I actually am. So I appreciate it. That was a good photo. We took it. Wimp traveled to Baton Rouge that night with the Alabama team. Nate brought him over there, and Dale happened just to be at that game. Dale liked to come to those games in Baton Rouge when they're on national TV. You know what I mean? Dale's a smart guy. So we all took a picture before the game, and it was really, really pretty nice. Yeah.
I love it because Doug Dean on the show last week, he's on our Friday roundtable at the AU Dose, and he's on AU Undercover today with us. And he said, I would love to have Dale Brown on this show just to listen to his philosophy. Dudley, I mean, he's one of those coaches, and you know this, Coach. He gets you fired up about doing anything. He's from North Dakota. There's something about people that come from way away that come to the South. They wake us up, Dudley.
You appreciate it.
Yeah.
I've been to 48 states. I've not been to North Dakota and South Dakota. I've got to get that done before ride off into the sunset. But the favorite movie of all time is North by Northwest. Got a great scene in there. I got to go recreate that.
Yeah. Well, and Fargo, of course, will make you think things. I've been to South Dakota, not North Dakota. South Dakota, you can go from one end of the state, from Sioux Falls all the way to Rap City. You might see one state trooper if you're lucky, and a lot of bohemian churches and pheasants in between, and pronghorn antelopes. All right, Coach, I want to ask you, and then go back to Dudley. And Vince Ferrara is going to join us in a minute from Knoxville, who covers Tennessee. This weekend's Final Four, again, it's only happened twice. All 4 of the seeds are right. We don't have a Cinderella. 2 years ago, we had San Diego State. We had Florida Atlantic. Does that make you less inclined or more inclined, or you like, I'm watching it regardless? You got to eat.
Well, I'd watch it anyway, but I don't know if anybody. But I think the casual fan, I think that when you get teams that are recognizable like these 4, I think it may draw the casual fan more so than in 06 when we had George Mason show up. I don't think that drew a lot of viewers, but certainly I think these 4 teams are what they've done the last several years from a basketball standpoint draws viewers, and I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be fun to watch. I'm going to watch it. I can't wait till it comes on. So, that Alabama game. We talked about Sears, right? Remember our discussion about Sears and some inconsistencies in his play, and when he's right, Alabama's really good, but when he's
Yeah.
not right, uh,
Yeah.
that game. How do you and I respect Nate Oates. He plays the way he wants to play and plays it like he's gonna do it every time. That's his philosophy. I'm gonna live and die by that three. We're gonna shoot him. It don't matter. But to go 25 for 51 and to try and follow that up against a well distributed and coached Duke team,
Yeah.
when I think their emphasis was to take their best player out and make it a difficult night for him.
Yeah.
And they certainly did that with Sears.
Yeah.
But prior to that, Rob, Sears was 5 for 30 from the 3-point line coming into the game where they were 25 for 51 and he was 10 for 16. So, Sears is he's a player I can't put my finger on because of his ups and downs and things that he's done throughout the season. But certainly Nate Oates and the success that he's had at Alabama is unprecedented of any coach that's ever been there. So I'm not critical of the way he plays. It's different to me because I think the 3-point line is so unpredictable that sometimes you look really good, better than you are, and then there's sometimes where you don't look as good, and you say, why do they keep shooting the ball like that? But that's what they do, and you have to give Nate Oates credit for doing what he believes in.
Yeah, speaking of Sears, just as I was crossing the bridge into Memphis yesterday, going by the pyramid in St. Jude, a friend of mine calls me and said, "Hey, what's the deal, man? Mark Sears is getting an extra year of eligibility, and he's transferring to Auburn." And I went, "Oh, come on!" And I'm thinking, "Do you not know what day it is?" And he goes, "It's being reported." And I said, "Come on, And then the other one that was out there, Brendan will know about this one. DJ Lagway enters the transfer portal. A lot of people were not paying attention yesterday. So
yeah, don't forget the LSU's playing a triple header on Friday night. In baseball, that they are going to play all their games this weekend on one day, 3 7-inning games. And for a second, I thought that is just
it's April Fool's.
Yeah.
Well, Dudley, Coach, a few weeks ago when that All-American team came out, the first thing he said, that's why I listened to you so closely, Coach, because you said, I love Sears. I love the guy, but I'd like to see him do more away from the basketball. And when a coach who's been to the Final Four and had a lot of success everywhere he's been says that, I'm going to listen. It's not that he's not a good player. He's a hell of a player.
Right.
But got to have that complete game. And Coach is right. Dudley, you hear the term used, run them off the 3-point line. And that's used a lot. Okay, we're going to bring in Vince Ferrara. Before we say, Vince, good morning. I know you've been up a long time. I want to say something real quick about one of our sponsors, Winter Timber Outdoors in Athens, Alabama. Folks, get all your hunting gear that you need. Get it there. They're open every day of the week. That's 7 days a week. They're building a new store in Auburn, but their plan is to grow in the footprint of the Southeastern Conference. Everything you need, head to toe, shotguns, rifles, and handguns. Knowledgeable staff. They know what you're doing. It's turkey season. It's like chasing a ghost, people. And a lot of days you're out there, it's windy like it is today. They can hear and they can see like a nuclear sub picks up motion. Watch out. You want to get a turkey, get geared up at Winter Timber Outdoors, growing in the footprint of the SEC. But I'll go to this, and then I want to go to Vince. Running them off the 3-point line, Dudley. There's only 5 guys to do it. Talk about that strategy.
I think it's key in this day and age, especially with so many teams launching shots. Coach Sutton used to call it fool's gold. I think that stays true. I for one think Mark Sears is a great player, but like Coach said, he missed so many shots while they were winning, and it wasn't going to that one magical night they had. I guess it's BYU, was it? Wasn't an indicator of how he played in the tournament. Again, great player, but you tried to ride him and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
The shout out to the Care Bear again, by the way, back there behind Vince. Yeah,
I love it.
yeah. But it's interesting in this day and age, and this is a thing with my Boston Celtics in the NBA. Man, they launch 3-pointers left and right, and if they're not on that night, they can lose to New Orleans or Washington. But if they hit them, they're going to beat everybody out there except maybe Oklahoma City.
Yeah. I mean, it is. You've got to have more of a game. Vince Ferrara, the sports animal in Knoxville 99.1, does a show Monday through Friday, folks, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern. Covers Tennessee. Like we say, we cover college sports in the South like kudzu and cotton and oppressive humidity. Vince, John David Badur, great friend of mine, Tennessee. He was born in a checkerboard orange and white baby blanket. He said, when Vince Ferrara is on the show in the morning, ask him this question. Give the current state, just kind of Cliff Note version of Tennessee athletics right now. Got to the Elite Eight for the second straight year. To me, that's a compliment to your program. When you're mad, you only got to the Elite Eight because you want more, which tells me Big Orange will be back.
Yeah, there's no doubt. If you think about it, there's no other program, I believe, that had their men's and women's basketball teams in the Sweet 16 and made the college football playoff. And then you add baseball in the equation as having won the national championship this past calendar year. There's a lot of winning going on at the University of Tennessee. Yeah. Now, baseball is the one that has cashed that in with the national championship. The others, the Lady Vols in basketball made it to the Sweet 16 in Kim Caldwell's first year. Charlie Cream going into the year didn't have them projected even making the tournament. And her style, Kim Caldwell's style, is so different that for her to get this team to the Sweet 16 like she did, and oh, by the way, she has the number one recruiting class in this coming in the last signing class. It'll be a part of the team next year. So, and then there's always the portal they can add on too. So that's been a great hire for Danny White. Obviously, Rick Barnes in Tennessee making it to the Elite Eight in consecutive years for the first time in program history. They made the Sweet 16 or better 3 years in a row, which they hadn't done. Obviously, fans want them to get to their first ever Final Four, and we're one step away from doing that. So there's a disappointment there. But as far as the state of the program, everything is rolling. I think Tennessee football will be in contention for a playoff. Maybe if you're doing, the way too early projections, you might have them just on the outside looking in, but they'll still be close enough to where they're a contender. Depends a lot on Nico, but we'll talk about that. But yeah, the softball just beat Oklahoma on the road.
Wow.
One of the best teams in the country. Just the third series that Oklahoma has lost at home since 2006. That's how rare it was. They had Carlin Pickens, their top pitcher, pitch a 78.2 mile per hour pitch in softball. That's the equivalent, according to what the numbers nerds say, to 110 mile per hour fastball in baseball. So now Tennessee has the all-time record holder in fastest pitch in softball with Carlin Pickens, and then Ben Joyce had the 105.5 in baseball a couple of years ago, and he's now with the Angels. So there's a lot of things, and there's beyond that with a lot of the other Olympic sports is going well. So yeah, it's in really good hands right now.
The world is checkerboard, orange and white. That's powerful stuff. Guys, I love listening on the radio. We had to come back from Atlanta at a crazy time Sunday, and I had to listen because you can't stream. So I listened to the Westwood One most of the time. Tom Crean, coach, do you know Tom Crean? It was him and Spiro Agnew, or whatever the guy's name was, with him, the play-by-play guy. It was awesome. They were first. At first, I was mad. I wanted to hear the Auburn, Andy Burcham, and Randall Dickey, but listening to a game on the radio, and Vince, you're a radio, you do TV. Wow. Just some of the minutia that Tom Crean picks up on as a coach. And I go back to you, Coach, about Tennessee, Rick Barnes. I don't know how you can't help but like that guy from Hickory, North Carolina. But to do what he's done, you keep knocking on the door. You got to believe it's going to happen, and they're going to get in the Final Four. And with the portal and their support, anything's possible.
Well, it is both ways, especially with the way players transfer, and I don't know how many players they'll lose or what they're going to have to do to keep it going. But Rick, also I think a combination in that getting to the Final Four is at Tennessee is his age too. How much longer is he going to want to fight this? Certainly, he's made a lot of money. He's been successful everywhere he's been, and when I do the radio for LSU, he almost stops by every time, and he looks at me and he says, "Coach, in '06, the best team I've ever coached, you beat me in overtime to go to the Final Four." And that's when he was at Texas. And I said, "Well, sorry about that, Coach. Too bad."
My bad.
But
My bad.
he's a class guy. And I tell you how you can tell. I can tell you about a guy. You ask assistants who've worked for him and what he does for them and how he looks after them and helps them in a lot of ways. That's the kind of guy that you want to see do well. And Rick is that kind of person and that kind of coach. So and what his players said in the press conference after the game, that we want to do this for Coach and want him to get to a Final Four. And that just shows you there's some good things going on within that basketball team, which I think is as important as winning a bunch of games.
Yeah. And I would say to all three of y'all, agree or disagree, I'm seeing more and more the 3 C's matter more than anything: campus, culture, coaching. Dudley, I watched Cal at Memphis. We all did. And people were crushed when he left. It's better than, hey, can we help you pack, isn't it?
Yeah. And you got to throw the fourth one in there now, cash.
Yeah. Well, yes, of course.
You got to do it.
That was a given.
Yeah. I really admire Rick Barnes off the court and on the court. I get tired of him calling him regular season Rick. Yeah. You only get called that when you're very, very successful and hadn't made that last step. But I mean, just a wonderful guy, as Coach Brady said. But that Tennessee's right there, and they're going to bust through it. Just like this Arkansas baseball team has been phenomenal over the program has been phenomenal over the years. But one dropped foul ball that dropped, kept them from winning the national championship, and they may have a team that it's. Vince, we're gonna have fun over here when if they're still 1-2 when Tennessee comes to Arkansas.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that. Of course, you got 8 of the top 10 baseball teams in America in one poll, or SEC teams. I listened to somebody say they can't have eight of the 16 national seasons. Well, we'll see. Yeah. Baseball is pretty good in this league. Every sport is pretty good in this league, and those 4 things that you mentioned, or the 3 things you mentioned in the cast, everybody is in and using those things now to get to where they need to be, and that's wonderful for this league.
Yeah. Vince, you're talking about this Final Four and getting there, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, growing up as a kid, we all knew John Wooden was the king. I mean, if he ever stayed in your town, it was always near the closest body of water, so he could get up and walk across the water in the morning. But the winningest coach in Pac-12 history, if I'm not mistaken, was Ralph Miller at Oregon State, the Beavers. He never won a national championship, but he won the total number of wins. And anyone that knows Pac-12 history, Ralph Miller's name is way up there high. Coach, we're all old enough to remember him. He's good. Vince, you talk about Rick Barnes, and like I said, Audrey's cousin Mark sees him a lot in the neighborhood walking. He's Joe Sixpack. He's just his faith is number 1 to him, which I think that's fantastic. And, but man, his players were emotional. Coach was right. They were crushed. That tells you you're doing it right. You're going to kick people's ass in practice. You're going to push them. But every coach I've ever had said, Brown, when I quit getting on your ass, you're done. That means I've lost interest in you. And I can't care more than you care.
Yeah, and there are a number of things. I'll try to keep it brief. What you said, Rob, and what Coach said. First of all, the emotion. There's no doubt about it. In the press conference, even in the locker room, there was emotion. And Zakai Ziegler saying he wanted to win for for Coach, Jemai Meshack saying he wanted to win for the fans, that they deserved it, and those guys thankful for it. I tell you what, one of the most difficult things in our jobs, cover a team in the postseason after their season is over. Dudley, you're nodding your head. My goodness, it's open locker room required in the NCAA tournament, and to see the finality of it for these players to have to deal with that and answer questions not that long after the game is over. Not only their season being over when in the postseason, when they had a chance to advance farther, and in Tennessee's case, do something the program had never done before, and that's get them to a Final Four that would be under part of your legacy if you're in that group that could help them get there. So that's over. Careers. Tennessee had 6 scholarship seniors and 7 total that were in that locker room. Careers over. And then that group all as one. They'll never be able to play together again as one group. And their brothers are close. That team does everything together, and I'm sure there's other examples of that. So all of those emotions running through their mind, and they're answering questions. It's heartbreaking, honestly, to watch them. And a lot of more often than not, almost all of them handle it with class and dignity, and a lot more class and maturity than probably adults who would snap back or whatever. So that's one. Also, in terms of the retirement topic, leading into that game, Rick Barnes was asked about the rumors of him potentially retiring after the season, and he basically shut it down. And that topic really had not been thrown at Rick Barnes and answered. We were taking as many questions about Rick Barnes, if he was going to step down or when he was going to step down and who was going to replace him. So they're in the NCAA tournament, and people are like, "Hey, who do you think will take over for Rick Barnes?" Is Rick Barnes still the coach?
Yeah.
And we're going to run through a candidate list, and he's still your coach?
Yeah.
Coach Brady knows about that. I mean, you're in a position, and people already want to name your replacement. That's not fair to anybody.
Yeah.
But that's how much of a topic it was. But he said, look, God will tell me when it is time. And no, I haven't thought about it. And it's not right now. I plan to coach the team next year. He's still done things that so many things the program had not done ever. So that, I think, is a positive to kind of squash that, because Coach Brady can relate to this. You're going to get negative recruited. If that continues, you don't want to go there because he's going to leave. He's going to retire. Now in basketball, with 1-year guys and portal guys, it's maybe not as big of a deal as that. And then the other thing is, real quick, is in terms of the roster, they only have 4 returning players, and 3 of them are post players. One of them didn't play this year because he was injured. Yeah. The other is the 9th man to play. So you have Felix Okpara and Cade Phillips, the only 2 guys that played regularly out of their 7-man top rotation. Everybody else is gone. And so they're going to have 6 scholarships available, 3 incoming freshmen. They had 3 open spots this year. So they're really going to attack that portal, but they're not a program that just brings in anybody. It has to be the right guys. So they're gonna have a brand new team next year for sure.
Well, let me say this too. Am I correct? I love Zakai Ziegler.
Yeah.
There's something, because did he lose his mother in the last year?
No. She lost her home. Their home.
That's right. I'm sorry.
In New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened is after they lost everything in their home, they started a fundraiser, a GoFundMe, and raised so much money to help them. And then, she moved down here. So she's done great. And just the outpouring from the community and other SEC fan bases were donating to help out as well. That's the kind of respect that he carries around the league and around college basketball. And it's going to be tough to replace Zakai Ziegler, a 5-year vault, Jemai Meshack, a 4-year vault. You just don't see program-changing players be around that long in today's college basketball or college athletics world.
Yeah, and Coach, I think about Zakai saying he rode a subway train an hour and a half each way every day to go to school. What, and you lose a player like that as a coach. I mean, I'm sure it's emotional for you, wouldn't it? You still probably remember this stuff very vividly.
Yeah, well, you can easily replace a really good player. Uh, I say easy, none of it's easy, but you can replace a really good player, but can you replace the intangibles he brings with him that permeate your team and make it better from an emotional standpoint? And that's what Ziegler did with Tennessee and his time there. I mean, his love for the university and his
Yeah.
care and concern for teammates, all of that permeated and made them better and made them closer. And I think that's one of the intangibles in this portal thing that sometimes you can miss. You can judge a talented player, but what does he bring outside of just being a really good player to the team that can help us, win a championship? And I think intangibles in a championship team are extremely important when it comes to winning and losing, particularly close games.
Yeah, I see Zakai Ziegler as Corey Beck, who was the point
Wow.
guard on the national championship team. So he did
Yeah.
everything that Coach Brady just mentioned there. And the other thing, Vince, I was nodding my head because one of the hardest things for me as a journalist over the 40 years has been those interviews after those games. And Arkansas's
Yeah.
been in tons of great situations, had some tough losses, some great wins. The important thing, and Coach Brady, you tell me if I'm right on this, is to ask the question the right way. Don't ask the question with a gotcha thing. It's an ask the question on how, just get the emotion without being stupid asking the question, because it's a tough situation for a player. It's a tough situation for a coach. Don't make it any tougher for them. Respect them the way for what they just accomplished.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would hope that a writer in that situation, like you two guys do, understand the situation and what's really going on in the room, as opposed to being a selfish guy that wants some kind of feedback on a question that really, at the end of the day, doesn't mean anything. So it's good to hear you guys say that. And as Tim Brando told me, I've crossed over to the dark side because I'm part of the media these days. So I have a great
We
respect
love
for the
having you,
media.
man.
And I probably made some mistakes with the media in my day. Trust me. I kind of snapped here and there, but hey, that's all part of it. And what happens to you along the way brings you to where you are. And certainly, I'm in a good spot now.
Well, to me, the people I'm the closest with, I might argue with the most or get mad at, and then just like, hey, I love you. I know you, but at least you're being honest. You got to get things out. And I like what you both said, Vince and Dudley and Coach, for you to say that's why I love having this panel together. We're blessed beyond belief, and Brendan and I have the greatest job in the world to get to do this, every day. And I think about these players and Zakai Ziegler. I just keep going back to him, man. And it's the SEC. I mean, go back years ago, man. I still remember the Saturday afternoon, October 1989, in the newsroom, Channel 3 in Columbus, WRBL, when uh, Chucky Mullins had the tragic play in the Ole Miss game and what that did, and you saw the outpouring of support. That's why the SEC, there's no other league in the country where that chant will come out, SEC, SEC, SEC. People will say, oh, they're just saying that. I'll be completely transparent. I'm an Auburn grad, but I'm married to a Vol. I got an Alabama daughter. Everybody else is Auburn. I've got so many friends at all these different schools. I just love my school. I don't hate anybody. I literally do pull for the whole conference because that's what makes it so special. And Coach, you as a radio analyst, I'm telling you, SEC Network, let's get the coach in there. And they got great guys on there, but I want to get you on there as a coach because when you said what you just said about Dudley and Vince, you don't hear that very often. That speaks to the character, the good character of both of these guys. So, I love to hear that because I hate negativity. I don't have time for it, and I love hearing
Well,
positive things.
guys that can read the situation in the room are smart guys, and these two guys seem to be smart
Yeah,
guys to me. They read the situation, and there's a time and place to ask difficult, tough, pinpointed questions. But certainly, as these two guys alluded to, uh, when you sense what's going on in the room, that's not the place or the time. So That's really good stuff, and it's good to be able to hear these two experienced guys say those kind of things.
Yeah, it is. Let's do this before we wrap up. If everybody can give me who they think's going to win the whole thing. My Final Four was Michigan State, Florida, Houston, and Alabama. Florida plays Houston. Florida cuts down the nets. Michigan State got knocked out, so I've got two of them alive. But Dudley, what do you think's going to happen? Go Dudley, Vince, and then Coach, and then we'll say goodbye.
Well, I'm feeling very good about this because this is, usually I do this with my head and not my heart, and that ends up not doing me very good. But all four of the number one seeds get to the Final Four. I had them all. I've got Florida winning it. I'm going to stick with that. And on the women's side, I had all the number ones except UConn, and so I picked UConn. So I'm picking them to win it all. Paige Buchers is she's a stud, and watched her play. She was a freshman, came here to Arkansas and played them. I'm looking forward to it. I got my Masters hat on. I'll watch golf next week, but I'm ready for this weekend. And if you want me, don't call me during those games.
Yeah, I agree, Vince. Great answer.
Going into the tournament, I had Florida over Duke in the national championship. But honestly, right now, if I had to do a reset, I would pick Duke. I think they're playing the best ball right now, and they have the best player. And I would have voted for Janai Broome as the player of the year during the regular season, but Cooper Flagg just incredible right now, and so many guys around him have gotten better, and they benefited from Flagg not being there for the ACC tournament or during some of it, and that helped elevate them. I can't see anybody beating them, so I will stick to that. I will shift to Duke over Florida in the national championship. Although you can make a case for all four. I saw Houston firsthand. What they did to Tennessee shocked me. Not they won and how they won, but shocked me how connected they are defensively, how athletic they are, how they can shoot the three with multiple 40% plus shooters. Just impressive. And then obviously Auburn's got the goods from being the best team all year.
Yeah, it's great. That's great. Couple of statements there. I like that. Coach, we'll give you the final word. And I mean, this is going to be a great weekend. I'm ready for it. I just hope we don't get blown away today.
Well, when the brackets came out, I had Michigan State, Florida, Houston, and Duke. So Auburn kind of upset my bubble. It's like I said in the opening, I'm afraid of this Auburn team now. They're so unpredictable sometimes with how they play and how good they play. But I've got Florida playing Duke in the championship. That's what I picked when the brackets came out, and I got Duke winning it all. As we talked about the Houston Duke game.
Oh no, we've Coach will be back. Vince is. I hope everybody isn't frozen.
Yeah,
we
did get Coach's pick.
yeah. The weather's starting to turn. We got a few extra minutes. I didn't realize I was looking at something. We want to get Coach back. He's in Fort Myers. Coach, we lost you there for a second. We're trying to get you back on. Coach, go ahead and go with your picks that you had. Yeah. Coach, you were trying to give your picks on what you think's going to happen. Oh, okay. We're all right. And hey, it's nothing like live TV and live streaming.
Rob, can I squeeze in a quick Rick Barnes story?
Absolutely.
I meant to, when we were talking about Barnes, I didn't want to go too long, but wanted to squeeze this in. Kelvin Sampson and Rick Barnes have been friends for 40 plus years. Wow. And it was so cool to ask Kelvin Sampson questions leading up to that game and listening to Kelvin Sampson talk about Rick Barnes. Little Ricky from Hickory is how he referred to him, because they're both North Carolina guys. And he said, Rick Barnes is one of one. He's so unique. He said Barnes sometimes will just call him at night, won't even say hello or anything, and say, Kelvin, you guys still running that 3-2 zone? Okay, I'm going to call you tomorrow and we're going to talk about it. And then just hang up. He said, who does that? Rick Barnes. And then he said 2 days later, he'll call back just to say, I love you, man.
Yeah.
And that's it. He said, no, who does that? Rick Barnes. So
Yeah.
he said there's more, should be more like him. So just really cool storytelling from Kelvin Sampson on Rick Barnes.
Yeah, and we've all been watching Kelvin Sampson. I mean, he succeeds everywhere he's been, and people, oh, he's this and that. Shut up. I mean, the guy's a hell of a coach. You cannot take that away from him. And Dudley, I like what Coach said going back 1979 in March. We were all kids, but we all remember Michigan State 75, Indiana State 64, the Hick from French Lick, Larry Bird, Dick Enberg, Kenny Loggins. If this is it, make no, that's kind of where that was the big moment that just blew up March Madness. And think about your memories since then, Dudley. It never disappoints, does it?
No. To quote Coach, "Oh shucks!" It was a great seminal moment.
That's right.
It was a great seminal moment. That's when the college games took a step forward, and really the NBA, because those two guys, in Magic and Larry, went into the NBA. Of course, one to the Celtics, one to the Lakers. They've made movies, they've made series. But yeah, March Madness, that game, and also the time when Rolando Blackman hit a shot, U.S. Reed hit a shot.
Oh God,
and
U.S.
I'm trying to think of who the other one was. There were 3 shots right in a row that made that day, and I believe my parents realized I knew some cuss words then.
Well, I just think about just the live TV when I was a young reporter, having to put the tapes in on the weekend newscast. Some of the language that was said on the internal headsets is still floating out there in the hemisphere somewhere way up high. It's never been translated. But wow, the U.S. Reed's shot in the Superdome. Wasn't it in the Superdome? The Arkansas Network.
Superdrum. It was in the Superdrum.
It just broke. It was so powerful. That wasn't Paul Eels on that call. Who was that?
I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but I'll get that back to you. But yeah, it all happened within 30 seconds to a minute. They switched real quick.
Yeah.
It was just wonderful. And I was already in love with sports and college basketball, but that just put me over the top.
Hey, y'all want to do something fun? We did this a few months ago. Go to YouTube TV and watch back in the 70s and in the early 80s and the way the TV was. They're like going, oh, let's go around the NFL. We'll check in with this game, San Diego and Cincinnati. And they go, there are your highlights there. What a great run by number 24. And score should be 16-10, but we've got to go to the next game.
Yeah,
it should be 16-10. And look how we've come along. And, Buddy Martin, I think, won an Emmy in the earlier mid-90s for those pregame football NFL shows up in New York. It was new. It was a new deal. Like when Brendan and Buddy started streaming back in 2008. What are you doing? Are you crazy? But we also remember when some of the tech moguls and powerful people used to say, why would anybody need a computer in their home? Because remember back then they were the size of a small house. And you had to keep them in an air conditioner with fans going on them, Vince. Remember those days?
Yep, no doubt.
I mean, it was crazy. But this weekend, Houston, Duke, Auburn, Florida, making the Final Four is great. But for a program like Duke, their expectations are to win it. Auburn, this is their second time. Florida's been to 8 Final Fours, first for Todd Golden. Kelvin Sampson, I don't think he's been to the Final Four yet at Houston, has he?
He has. He hasn't won a national championship, but he has been to the Final Four,
Not at Houston, okay. Because Houston is a program. Not at Houston. Oh, yeah, he's been to the Final Four. But looking at the state of college basketball in the SEC, and we've gone this entire show, and we've not used the F word, the F-bomb, football. I mean, who would think in the South, and it's April 2nd, we have not talked about football yet. And folks, Monday night, it's going to be over, the national championship. And Tuesday, we'll be talking some basketball, but it is about to get football heavy.
I got to correct you. Vince snuck some football in there.
Oh, he did. That's right.
Yeah,
I heard the word. But But this is a testimony to the legacy, one of many, that Mike Slive left behind when in the spring of 2014, I think it was the SEC tournament, he got everybody together and said, hey, guys, we have got to ramp it up. You know, we're Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, and we're selling shoe leather for steaks and charging the same price. We can't do that. I think also the best thing that happened to SEC basketball was the SEC network being launched in August of 2014, because you cannot claim to be the best conference unless you're trying to be the best in every sport. So I think this stuff is fantastic. All right, we'll wrap it up. Vince, what are you talking about on your show today? Let them know how they can follow you. Dudley, you do the same, and then I'll come back with a word about our sponsors.
Yeah, actually, because Tennessee season ended and we still talked about basketball, and what we're doing is tracking the portal. We mentioned all the open spots on the roster for Tennessee. They're really attacking the portal and hoops. So we talked about that. And then a lot of football, as you know, football has taken a little bit of a backseat, even in Knoxville with this NCAA tournament run. So we got back into it. Tennessee makes all the assistant coaches available to us in rotating fashion, plus 2 to 5 players at a time. So plenty of interviews, content, things to break down with this team, position battles, young players, all that kind of fun stuff. So basketball and football dominating, and then obviously baseball. Tennessee baseball won again last night, 27-2, number 1 in all the polls. So softball doing well. So those are the things that really drove the bus this morning, and will continue to do so. Throughout spring game is next Saturday. It's crazy. It's almost here, but yeah, it'll be football and baseball heavy until the spring game is over, and then it'll be it'll still be both because football is year round. But those are the big things.
Yeah, same here. Portal comings and goings, both the men's and women's teams in baseball. Right there, tucked behind Tennessee and all those polls is Arkansas, and what a conference race this is going to be down to the road. And I mean, you better win everything at home, and you better take some serious on the road because it's going to be tough at the top.
Yeah, it really is, man. Guys, great stuff. Everybody be careful today, and we'll see y'all next week. Thank you so much. Great conversation. Brendan, I want to say this about Landers Ford. The flag is down for a few days because of the weather. Old Glory will be back up at Poplar and Houston Levee, where Memphis and Collierville come together. LandersFordMemphis.com. If you're looking to get a new car, truck, or SUV, or a pre-owned one, they've got you covered. They will deliver anywhere. Service department open every day of the week. Ask for Brad Bellamy, the general manager, our friend. And they are committed all over the Mid-South: Houston High School, Collierville High School, Rossville Academy, Christian Brothers High School, Tom Nick Stadium, Landers Field. Check it out, all the improvements over there. What an investment that they've made into the Mid-South. The number 1 Ford dealership in the Mid-South, not because they're lucky, because they work harder to be great. And Brad just announced they won the President's Award. The service department did. That's a big, big deal. If you got to get some maintenance done on your vehicle, they'll pick you up at home or your office, provide round-trip transportation. Follow through the commitment. It never stops. Landers Ford open every day of the week except Sunday, 7 a.m., 7 p.m. LandersFordMemphis.com. They're right down the street from Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company. I'm going to try to get out there today before this weather creeps in around 3. Charles Hall, Raven Carpenter, oh my God, J.M. Huffman, Eli Squidward, Lydia, Laura, the whole team out there. What an experience to go into this store. Over 7,000 different boots, pairs of boots for men and women. And they got kids' boots. Women's clothing is exceptional. STS, they've got great dresses, pants, women's boots, purses, luggage. Filson, Barber, Pendleton, Schaefer, Duckhead. And there is a 50% off rack of all the winter stuff. I mean, I'm talking Duck Camp, Pendleton, Barber on sale. Clothing, now all the spring fashions are coming out. Wow. Look at what they got. The shorts, shirts, incredible selection of t-shirts and all the great gear you need. Proud to have them as a sponsor. Check out our website, www.sidelines.live. For the best executive producer on the planet Earth, who finds more excuses to win than anybody, Brendan Martin. Let me say, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We can't all do everything. Mother Teresa was right, but we can all do something. Go do something great. Be careful. Watch us today, 5 p.m. Eastern, AU Undercover. Buddy Martin show tonight. And thanks for watching.